Congressman Adam Schiff, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Chairman Schiff, thank you very much for coming back to the Sunday show.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
Okay, so we have known for a long time who Donald Trump thought was leaking. Let's play a little montage of who he thought was leaking classified information.
I think Adam Schiff is the biggest leaker in Washington. You know that. I know that. We all know that. I've watched Adam Schiff leak. He's a corrupt politician. He's a leaker like nobody's ever seen before.
Schiff is a big leaker.
They ought to investigate Adam Schiff for leaking that information. He should not be leaking information out of intelligence. They ought to investigate Adam Schiff.
Chairman Schiff, the floor is yours to respond.
Well, look, I had to get used to that over the last 4 years. But the problem is when the president continually badgers the Justice Department to go after his political enemies, and he has people unscrupulous enough to do it, it raises serious questions about whether the Justice Department has been weaponized in the president's service. We know that Bill Barr, for example, intervened in specific cases to lower the sentencing recommendation for people who lied to cover up for the president, like Roger Stone. He intervened to make cases go away for people who lied also on the president's behalf and on their own behalf, like Mike Flynn. And it certainly appears that they were using the Justice Department to go after the president's political enemies. There's still a lot we don't know, obviously, but I'm glad that the Inspector General of the Justice Department will be doing an investigation, not just into what appears to be the partisan targeting of Democrats on the Intelligence Committee, staff, family members, but also the numerous records of members of the press. And hopefully this will result in new policies in the Justice Department to better protect the First Amendment, but also to better protect the independence of the Justice Department.
You know, Chairman Schiff, you just said a moment ago, there's a lot we don't know, but I'm curious, when did you find out about the story that we then read that broke Thursday night at the New York Times about these Justice Department subpoenas? Were you already aware of this story?
I found out from Apple last month that they had provided some of my records to the Justice Department. And that's how I found out, with emails that looked like spam, frankly. And that's how members of the staff, that's how family members of people found out. And we still don't know actually how many records were sought of people related to the committee, because a lot of people didn't recognize what they were. And so that's another issue, which is why did we hear about this in a generic email from Apple rather than the Justice Department? There were gag rules put in place, so Apple couldn't tell us before now. But when the new Justice Department came in and looked, and I hope they did a review of this and found that there was no merit to this, they should have come to Congress and not have us find out this way.
You know, Chairman Schiff, NBC News' Pete Williams tells us that a former senior Justice Department official said last night that when then Attorney General Jeff Sessions was Attorney General, he never approved subpoenas for members of the House Intelligence Committee in a leak investigation. This comes after there's a story in Politico on Friday. Barr distances himself from Trump-era subpoenas of lawmakers, and then another news organization put out a story yesterday. Former Deputy A.G. Rosenstein has said he was not aware of subpoena for lawmakers' data. Do you buy that?
Well, I'm very skeptical, obviously. Given the sensitivity of seeking records belonging to members of Congress, the fact that this would violate norms that frankly, this may be completely unprecedented in this kind of a leak investigation. The idea that would be done without alerting the Attorney General was seeking the approval of the Attorney General seems pretty far-fetched. There's also reporting that Barr ordered these cases to be reopened when prosecutors said essentially that there was nothing there. So, we're going to find out. But it's one problem, obviously, if the attorney generals approved this because they were being badgered by the president to go after his enemies. But it's another problem if they're unaware of it. What does that say about whether there are runaway people within the Justice Department engaging this kind of conduct.
Right, and that leads to the next question I was going to ask you, and that is, how widespread do you think this abuse of power runs within the Justice Department under the previous administration?
It's very hard to say. Just though looking at the effort to go after what appears, again, and we don't know the full facts, but what appears to be a partisan look at the Intelligence Committee. We don't have any evidence yet that Republicans' records were sought. But from Apple, we know that 109 records were sought. From 109 phone numbers or emails, that's an extraordinary number. What that says is they didn't know what they were looking for, that it was largely indiscriminate. And that kind of a fishing expedition is its own problem. But I want to point out something that's also implicated in your question, which is the effort to go after lawmakers' records, the records of the press. This is just one subset of the broader problem at Justice over the last 4 years, a problem in which the president intervened in specific cases and the attorney general was willing to do the president's bidding. That violates norms that were set up post-Watergate. Clearly, we're going to have to reestablish those guardrails, and we're in Congress going to be looking at how do we legislate to make those guardrails law so that no future president can do what the last one did.
Chairman Schiff, on Friday, the Justice Department announced that the Inspector General would be investigating the Trump-era leak hunt targeting lawmakers and journalists. Should more be done? Can more be done?
Yes. I don't think we can leave this all to the Inspector General. I think Congress should bring in the heads of the department over the last 4 years and force them to answer under oath. We know that Bill Barr has a history of lying and dissembling, frankly, to the public. And so I think it's important to put him under oath and ask him these questions. And given the breadth of this, the intervention in specific cases, the use of the department as both a sword and a shield for the former president, the abuse of the Justice Department to basically act as Donald Trump's private law firm, even in suits for defamation for people that have accused him of sexual assault or rape. That's a terrible abuse of the Department of Justice. So there really needs to be a wholesale review. It should be done by Merrick Garland, but it also should be done by Congress so that we can put in place broader protections.